To hear more mini culture stories, visit kfai.org and click on the Mini Culture tab. Mini Culture on KFAI is supported by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
The time now is 1 o'clock. You're listening to Fresh Air Community Radio, KFAI 90.3 FM, HD Minneapolis, and on the web at kfai.org. It's where community grows. And it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. I'm looking at my watch as though I have one on my wrist. It's Tuesday the 10th. And every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, we join Al McFarlane for conversations with Al McFarlane. Mr. McFarlane, can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly, Mason. How you doing, man?
Good. Good to see you. Good to hear you. Good to see you got a whole bunch of people in this room here ready to go. This is going to be quite a conversation.
Well, a bunch of marvelous people, as a matter of fact, so it should be a great program. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Today is Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. You know, of late, I've been connecting with friends of mine in the art world. And we've been having just wonderful conversations about the creative process, our duty, our obligation to be witnesses to history and witnesses to the creation of the future. And today, we're going to continue in that vein. I'm introducing a couple of people that you haven't met before, but one that you have. The one you have met is my friend and colleague who's co-hosting with me today, Charles Caldwell. Charles Caldwell is an artist, muralist extraordinaire. Everybody knows his work over on West Broadway, the Welcome to North Minneapolis mural on the side of, is it the North Side Bar, Charles? Unmute, Charles, if you would.
4th Street Saloon.
4th Street Saloon. Everybody knows it as North Side Bar, but 4th Street Saloon on Broadway, facing east, or you see it heading west on Broadway. And who's new here is our two friends, Roy Lewis. I introduced him as an old friend. He's a friend of mine from decades ago, and I've worked with him. He's a photographer extraordinaire, a person who is familiar with our community nationally, has done phenomenal work in books and in newspapers, is affiliated with the National Newspaper Publishers Association and with the Washington Informer newspaper and others. He's done work for Inside News as well. And then I'm introducing him and you at the same time to a new friend, Haywood Galbreath, who's a photographer, again, a colleague in the Black press out of the West Coast. So over the course of the hour, we're going to talk to these three artists, my co-host Charles Caldwell and artist Roy Lewis and artist Haywood Galbreath, about art, about culture, about our vision, our version of the truth of reality, and our obligation to create, to paint a future in which we win. But I want to start with my friend Tim Baylor. Tim, I see your name. You're in the studio, I think, but I don't see your image. So if you can turn your video on, otherwise we can just do audio. Tim, are you there? Do you hear me?
Yes, I am here, Al. How are you? How's everybody doing today?
Good. I'm doing really great. Are you able to turn your video on?
I've been trying to turn it on, Al, but my technology skills are lacking.
Well, so you know what? This is radio, so radio is just fine. And I see we lost him there. So two other voices coming on. One is Al Flowers. Al Flowers, I call him the field marshal of the movement. And Al and I have been talking about what's going on over at the state capitol, particularly around an initiative to create a new youth center in North Minneapolis. We'll talk about that in the course of the hour. And also, I'm going to be joined by a representative of Juneteenth. And I think you'll enjoy Michelle Gibson is managing the Juneteenth project. In the back is my friend Brenda Lyle Gray, tongue twister. Brenda, how you doing this morning?
Hello to everyone. Good morning, boss, or good afternoon where you are.
All right. Great. Well, Tim, I see you're back now. Let me just start with you, Tim Baylor. First of all, I wanted to put on the screen so people can see it, what you're doing in creating a new housing development opportunity in North Minneapolis. You've got a project called the Satori Village. And I am loading on my screen, Tim, an image of that ran in the, I think, KSTP news a few days ago. The headline says $68 million investment in North Minneapolis. And it says upcoming apartment complex with market value and affordable housing. Congratulations. Take a few minutes to talk about that.
Well, thank you, Al. You know, the $68 million investment reflects the three different phases that we're projecting. The first phase is actually under construction now, and we're having an official groundbreak ceremony this Thursday at 10 o'clock. All are welcome. The second phase is a Artist Loft phase, which is an infill right on Broadway. The third phase is on Bryan Avenue, and that's a 78-unit independent living senior building. And so, you know, we've been working on this vision for almost 8 years now. And a bit of the backstory is, you know, my wife and I have been about this community for the last 25 years. We moved here. We did a development on the river that we live in now. We have business here. This is where we hang out. And, you know, a community is comprised of all different types of talents, and they're educators, they're pastors and religious people, they're activists, they're social engagement people like Al Flowers, and we need all of those. My expertise and interest is in real estate and real estate development. And my vision in changing the community is to incorporate those components that I think will make for a healthier North Minneapolis. As you may know, there hasn't been any market rate housing in North Minneapolis over the last 13 years, but over 350 affordable housing units. And my contention is that we cannot continue to concentrate poverty in one area. And so while I know that affordable housing is needed throughout the metro area, throughout the city, throughout the state, let's spread it around some. And conversely, because we need more housing options here, because there are people that want to stay and move into North Minneapolis, but they want that quality housing option, that was my call to action to see what I can do to provide that. And so after several years of working with the city and city council and the CPED department, investors, we were able to pull this together. And so the first phase is underway. The first phase, you know, the total development cost is $34 million. And, you know, that's a big number for North Minneapolis for this type of product. But in the real estate world, it's par for the course. And that's essentially what I've been saying. Let's bring to North Minneapolis what every other community has, par for the course.
You mentioned an artist loft. Talk about that. We've got artists on the line here. What that sounds exciting.
Well, you know, Broadway has a lot of vacant lots and a lot of underutilized lots. And a part of the city's plan is to add more density along Broadway with not just businesses, but with residents for a couple of reasons. Number one, more eyes on the street equates to more eyes on the street. So there's a safety perception of having more people around. And the other incentive for the city is because it increases the tax base. So when you go around other parts of town, you see the density on these main thoroughfares. And in this instance, this building is what I call micro units. They're, you know, from 400 to 600 square feet. They're studio apartments, or what we call alcove units. An alcove unit is really a one bedroom, but the wall doesn't go all the way to the ceiling. It's kind of like a partition, but it's still a separate room. And so it's the high ceilings, floor to ceiling, windows, and you know, it's a kind of product that I think that artful people and, you know, workers actually, and people, even young professionals, would prefer a smaller space in an area that's close to transit and that has all the amenities that a healthy community has: grocery store, a McDonald's, and other businesses to use. So that's what the loft represents.
Tim, you laughed a little bit when you said grocery store and a McDonald's. I appreciate that. Tim, for those of us listening who don't know, one of their guests is the owner of the McDonald's on West Broadway, and I think of several other McDonald's as well, and has been doing housing development for a long time. Tim, I want to say how glad I am that you're making the progress you're making. Where this development is going is on the corner from the Inside Office, the Marcus Garvey House on 18th and Bryant. And Tim's business, Satori Village, is going to be on Broadway and Bryant, West Broadway and Bryant. And why I'm happy is that for a long period of time, Tim, that intersection that you just raised, that you're developing now, was a place where there was a lot of people that were unhoused and illicit traffic. It was dangerous and a place where there had been gunshots and where people were not safe. And so I think that, among other things, this development is what's necessary to bring back a sense of community, to have more people in the neighborhood, more people with vested interest in public safety and in being productive citizens. So I want to thank you for that. Before I let you go, Tim, why don't you invite people again to the grand opening, or to the groundbreaking, which is coming up on Thursday.
Certainly, Al, but I want to echo what you said about that block, particularly. As you know, it's been a pretty scary place for the last few years.
Yeah.
And my concept in looking at real estate and looking at the product that you want to put in a particular community or a particular area, whether it's a McDonald's or an apartment house or a business, where's the best location for that business? Where's the best location for that business or that property to have the most impact? And a part of my analysis was that corner, this area, is in many ways the epicenter of a lot of those concerns. So let's drop this bit of sunshine in that community and see what we can make shine. And rather than do one project, we decided to phase it in so that we can have the economy of scale to start to turn the needle on the community and bringing more wholesome businesses and activities into the area. The construction has.
Charles, let me ask you, Charles, my co-host Charles Caldwell, unmute if you would, Charles. When you hear a developer talking about creating an artist residences, what comes to mind? And even Roy and brother Haywood from East Coast and West Coast, what do you guys think when you hear a business owner and developer talking about being intentional in creating space for creative people? Charles, first, what do you think?
I think it's just great. I think it's inspirational for artists to feel like there's something being created for them. You know, artists spend a lot of time being creative. And we wish we had a certain type of environment, a certain type of space to work in. And I think artists that get the opportunity to, especially young artists, that get the opportunity to grow into a space that's created for them and allows them an opportunity to expand upon creative space and creative opportunity. So I think it's exciting to hear the word artist residence and artist space being created. My daughter just moved into an artist space, and the building is full of artists, and they get together on the weekends and do collaborated art events and art presentations. But it's a great place to grow creativity, and it's a place when artists, myself, when I hear that there's a space being created with artists in mind, and so I'm totally excited about hearing that.
And by the way, on the first floor of that building is 1,100 square feet that's open for commercial or retail or artists to work collaboratively together. And so we do have that. It is intentional. There is 1,100 square feet. So if you're looking for a space, Charles, we got one for you right there.
It'd be great to cultivate an art gallery from the artists of the community in the area.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
I
let's
like
talk.
that idea.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. Great conversation. Tim Baylor, developer of Satori Village, a new housing development on the corner of Bryant and West Broadway in North Minneapolis. My co-host today, Charles Caldwell, an artist and muralist extraordinaire here in North Minneapolis, joining us from both coasts. Roy Lewis, photographer out on the East Coast in DC, and Haywood Galbreath, photographer on the West Coast. I think you're in LA, Haywood. I think that's where you are. But good to have you guys both on. Before I go to you, I want to. Yes, go ahead.
Can I interrupt?
Go ahead.
To Mr. Lewis, I'm from DC. That's my home. I get back there every month. I got a home there in Howard University, right there in Washington. So good to meet you, homeboy.
Hey, man, it's good to meet you.
You probably have crossed paths before because Roy is all over DC, but I'm sure when you're there next time, you guys could connect. Roy's just a superb professional and human being as well, and you'll be in good company with him.
Cardozo, baby, Cardozo.
So let me, Tim, hang out as long as you want to, okay? If I'm gonna keep the program moving. I want to talk to a couple of friends, a couple of Flowers, Al Flowers and Al Flowers Jr., just to bring this conversation. One of the things that these brothers are working on with others is a youth project for North Minneapolis, a youth center. And I know that AJ, Al Flowers Jr., was over at the state capitol a few minutes ago lobbying on behalf of legislation to bring that resource to the community. AJ is one of the principals in a group called the Young People's Task Force, and they've been doing amazing, phenomenal organizing and representation about and around Black interests, particularly the youth interests in the Black community. I've watched them with a degree of awe and respect as they have engaged all the power brokers across the spectrum and across ethnic communities. And basically been straightforward and unapologetic in saying, where are the interests of Black people being considered and met? And they are articulating those interests and demanding that their voices and their work be both understood, respected, heard, and included in the future. Al Flowers, of course, nurturing and supporting this group of young titans, I call them. Flowers, among other things, is a key part of the Unity Community Mediation team, the group that's negotiating with the city and has been for a long time over public safety and over policing. And we know policing has come into the public light in a new way in the past few days with the State Human Rights Commissioner issuing a report condemning the Minneapolis Police Department and the city of Minneapolis for its failure to eliminate racial discrimination against Black and brown people. Al Flowers Jr., how are you guys doing? Good to see you both here. Unmute. Yeah, go ahead. Unmute.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing good. How about yourself, Mr. McFarlane?
I'm doing well, and thank you again for all the work you're doing. What's happening right now at the Capitol?
Yeah, well, right now at the Capitol, we're in the midst of trying to get funding for a youth center that we're calling the Rosa Parks Youth Development Center for African American Youth. It's Senate File 3754 if anybody want to call their senators and let them know to make sure that this bill is heard. And on the House level, it's 3790. And what it is basically a youth center to be brought back to North Minneapolis that I have to get a credit to start with. That started with our mothers of the community 2-3 years ago. It was a women's battery shelter that they were going to open. And to the credit of our mothers, who this shelter would have benefited the most. At the time, they said we can only pick one, and our mothers actually said we need a youth center for our young people. We need a safe space for our young people to have. And so that's kind of got the ball rolling. And from there, we kind of spoke to our young folks all throughout the city without giving them the mind frame of saying, do you want a youth center? But asking them, what is it that you need that will make you feel more safe? And unequivocally, our young people all throughout the city of Minneapolis, we talked to them all through the whole 2021. And every place we went, it was youth center. It was youth center. It was a safe place. It was a place of refuge. It was a place of reconciliation. It was a place of, mediation in different formats like that. So we decided once we heard that conversation that, okay, we have been screaming for a youth center even before I was alive. You know, since the way was closed, there's been plenty of people ahead of me that has been asking for a youth center. And I feel as though a lot of time it wasn't happening because we weren't able to put the plan on the paper and get it to the next level. So we decided that if we want the youth center, what are we going to do to make this this youth center actually beneficial for us outside of just the normal thing of what you would think of a youth center, which is, you know, playing ball or different things like that. Of course, we're going to have the gym there and different things for our kids to enjoy. But we also said, what else do you want this youth center to provide you? What else can this youth center provide you that you think will help you build towards the next level of success? And that's when we were able to identify our 7 core principles of this youth center that will be, no matter what services we offer, these are the services we're looking for, which is number 1, self-actualization. So, you know, self-value, knowing who you are as a person, understanding who you are, understanding your history, reconciliation and mediation, economic development. We know that one of the biggest problems we face as African-American, I believe Brother Tim Bailey was also saying that too, is that we don't have the access to wealth as most communities do. So we got to find a way to really develop ourselves in the economic side. Number 4 was education. Of course, education is always the key to anything that you can do. Number 5 was recreation and creative expression, because we wanted to add in that element of music, that element of art. I believe y'all was speaking about art too. So it's amazing because our young people are so into the art world, and NFTs. There's so many different ways that they can capitalize nowadays. And we want to make sure that we tap into that. One of the things that the Way did that was so great, it brought us one of the greatest artists ever. I would say the greatest, and I don't want to be biased because I'm from Minnesota, but Prince, right? And in our senator too, Bobby Joe Champion, he also was a participant at the Way. And there's plenty more people that has made a positive impact on their community from what that community center was doing. So we wanted to put that creative expression. Number 6 was holistic health and safety. So that's physical, mental, and spiritual. And when we say the mental part, we call it behavioral health, but in our community, especially as African-American males, we don't acknowledge that fact. You know, when I was growing up, it was like, you know, you got to toughen up, but it's a real thing. And it's real trauma that we face. And we face more trauma than some people that goes to the military, based on some of the people that we see lose their lives. I spoke to young folks who had friends die. 7 friends died before they was 18. From 12 to 18, he had 7 people that he grew up with die. That is beyond traumatic. It's some people that go overseas and don't have that. And then when we start talking about physical health, we're talking about diet plans and working out and fitness plans, if that's what the young folks want to do. But we want to give them that opportunity to be the healthiest person they can. And lastly, on the spiritual side, we're not pushing no certain religion on anybody. We're saying whatever spiritual belief that you have, whether it's an energy belief, whether it's God, whether it's Muslim, whether it's Buddhism, whether even if you're an atheist, right? No matter what it is that you believe that holds your values and your morals, we want to try to help you tap into that and make that to the better person of you. And lastly was leadership. You know, we want to build our future CEO of companies. We want to build our future executive directors, our future radio hosts, right? Our future senators, our future Fortune 500 company owners, CEOs, and teach them how to be leaders. And most importantly, leaders to their communities, ambassadors of peace to their community. And these, and the most cool thing about this was all identified by the young folks. And when I say I'm 29, this was identified with people from the age of 20 to 10 that decided these 7 core principles, and we were able to just put it on the paper. So we're really just doing the work that the young folks asked us to do. And since then, we've been lobbying. We spoke to everybody at the Capitol level. I got to give a shout out to our state reps that's over there, Esther Agaji and Fu Lee, and then our Senator Bobby Joe Champion, who's been carrying this bill. And not only carrying this bill, they've been giving us all the advice that we can get. We didn't have no money to pay lobbyists, but what they did for us was to tell us where we should be going, because that's something that we got to learn too. Because we thought we just need to go talk to every single senator and state rep, and we tried to do it that way. But then we learned that there's certain committees that you can go to that can help the process out. Something that we wouldn't have known without the help of our senator and our state rep really pointing us in the right direction to try to get this bill passed. And now we're just in the process of seeing how it plays out. But once again, you know, for everybody that's listening, if you can call your state rep, the House file number is 3790. The Senate file number is 3754. We can always use any support. You don't have to come up there, but just a call will be nice. An email to your senator, just letting them know that this is a bill that needs to happen, especially for our young people in Minneapolis.
AJ, I'm so impressed, man. I just could listen to you from now on And what's so powerful about what you say and how you're saying it is that you are embodying and transmitting the will and the voice, as you said, of 10-year-olds, of 11, 12, 13, 18-year-olds. And you have acknowledged that you are in this as an elder among the young youth, right? And so your dad and I, Al Flowers Sr. and I are elders. I think Tim and Caldwell and Roy Lewis and Brother Haywood, all of us are people that are seasoned, been around elders. And I think I speak for all of us when we say, right on, do the work, because this is what we all worked for. And you have articulated, but also mobilized, organized, and brought forth a plan of action. And it's wonderful to see you having a fearlessness and taking that plan to the corridors of power, to the table of decision in Minnesota, and creating an expectation that we believe will be delivered on. That's wonderful. Al Flowers, take a minute, if you would, and just give a 2-minute. I got a lot to go over, but I want to update you. Number one, give you your props for the work you're doing with AJ and Miles and all of the Young People's Task Force. You're doing a great job in directing and motivating and encouraging them. And what we just heard was the evidence. It's amazing. Go ahead.
Hey, Al, I didn't even really want to follow that. It's getting kind of bad here.
It's hard to follow. Yeah,
it's getting kind of bad. But I know Brother Caldwell had to appreciate that creative art, and AJ should get connected with him because he is the one that does that artwork and could teach them a lot with what they are doing, and probably end up being a teacher over there if once we get this Rosa Parks Center. And and just hearing Tim Baylor, what he was doing, and I can say to the community on here, no, the Marcus Garvey house is not going anywhere. I just had the question this morning, what do that mean about Al's house? So we'll clear that up right now. No, the Marcus Garvey house is not going anywhere to the people that was asking about Tim Baylor's project. So we cleared that up. And I just want to say this real quick.
Al, never say never. I mean, progress is progress, and Tim may need that building at time in the future. And if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Hey, and I said that when I was having the conversation. I said, no, Al didn't say that, but business is business. If it's gonna be good for the people and something like that. So I did express that too. I was pretty good on that part there too. So, but I want to say, Al, real quick. I'm just glad what we talking about, what Baylor and AJ and them talking about, because last week as an activist, I watched 3 different press conferences. One with the Attorney General Ellison, and they were talking about this spike in crime that we have to get a hold of. I watched that press conference there with Attorney General Ellison, Mike Freeman, and John Choi of St. Paul Ramsey County. I watched the mayor have a press conference with Councilmember Vital and the mayor and the police chief last week. And then I watched the U.S. Attorney, Andy Lugar, have a press conference, and all of them was talking about what they got to do about this violence, which I agree with most of what they're saying. But I like the part of what we trying to do about the youth center, so we can get away from all what they talking about and putting our kids and people in jail. But they have to say what they say. So I'm so proud to see what they're working on and see that not just myself and Mark Anderson and Pastor Bethel and Mary Lagarde in the Native community are really pushing AJ and them to just say what you want to say and do what you want to do. And nobody's been more pushing them than you have. So I can't say no more than you. I'm sitting there listening to AJ. I really didn't know why I was on the show, because he carried it in a way, made me proud too, Al. So I'm just glad to be sitting here listening.
Well, take 30 seconds again and reiterate, Al Flowers, the importance of Commissioner Rebecca Lucero's report last week and a half ago. It basically indicting the Minneapolis Police Department. I see it's making national news. I read a report out of Miami today about racism at the Minneapolis Police Department. So this is not just local. The whole country is looking at Minneapolis, and this report is one of the lenses through which they can assess what the problem and what their practice and policies have been here in Minnesota. Tell our listeners again, just 30 seconds, if you would, the overall arching intent and content of Rebecca Lucero's report from the Minnesota Human Rights Department.
It's so important now because we've been fighting these issues for many years. I always talk about the elders, the ones that taught us, and we've been saying it, but they never would believe what we're saying. Me being a victim of police brutality over 5 times, I done took 5 whoopings. I say I took 5 whoopings. I never was charged with anything at the end. I owned a child care center. So this wasn't new to me, what they were doing. And it's still, we still got work to do on that. But being with the mediation team and working with these young people, trying to educate them on what's going on, the state made it a lot easier. But I don't never let the state off the hook, because we've been telling the Human Rights Department, not Rebecca Lucero, but we've been telling them for years this was happening to us. The Civil Rights Department, the mayors, they all complicit in what happened to ADOS, African American and Native American people. We just never had the power, especially in our community, to fight back. So they gave us a leg up this time. They said what we knew, and now we cannot let that go untapped. Don't tell us you beat us for 10 years like you did us in slavery for so many years. You did slavery, and we got no reparation for it. And then here's another case where you're saying I'm guilty of discriminating against African Americans and Native Americans, and now we're going to do a consent decree. And my philosophy on that, as the communication chair of Unity Community Mediation Team, okay, we going to the consent decree, but what are you going to do about what's the punitive damage that you did to us those 10 years that was investigated? Because if you go back 20 years, it'll get even worse. So it's not the end. That report is not the end. The consent decree not the end. And we asked Mayor Fry about, in a meeting now, we asked the mayor, hey, Mayor, what are you going to do about those 10 years? We the victim here. We were the victim in that 10 years. So don't just tell us, okay, yep, we did it to you, and we going to the next step. No, we want to know what are you going to put in? What are you going to do about what happened? Whether that's helping with youth center, whether that's helping with business, it must be something else. Besides saying you are free again. It must be something else with that, Al. And I'll be working with you and talking with you and our community to see. It's got to be something else. You just can't do it to us and then say, okay, we did. Now we're going to go to the consent decree. What about what happened with those 10 years of abuse that you did to our people?
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. Al Flowers talking. We also are both working with Sister Michelle Gibson. She's running the upcoming Juneteenth promotion. I asked her to come on for a second or two just to give people an update and an invitation. Michelle Gibson leads a project called Black-Owned Business Rewards Club. Michelle, good afternoon. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Take a minute, take a second, and talk about what you're doing for Juneteenth. And I think if you want to do a screen share, you're welcome to do that. You should be able to do it. I think you're able to anyway.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay.
Hear you perfectly.
All right, good. I was having some complications there. But yeah, my name is Michelle Gibson Webb. I am the founder and director of Bob Rewards Club. Bob stands for Black-Owned Businesses.
Your voice is a little light, so if you can get right into your microphone, be better.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Michelle Gibson Webb. I am the founder and director of Bob Rewards Club. Bob stands for Black-Owned Businesses. And we've been around since 2016. We are a 501c3. And basically, I'm a native of Minnesota, grew up in the Twin Cities, went to the University of Minnesota, graduating, got my bachelor's from there. So in any event, I started Bob Rewards Club. Our mission is to change the social economic status of Blacks. And when I say that, I mean that in a way that we cross over into dealing with, housing, home ownership, business ownership, looking at everything as a whole picture. Us people, our behavior and the things that we're doing, focusing on mental illness. So so anytime we do an event, we do it for a reason. It's, we're not just doing it because, we love to celebrate, which we do love to do. However, this Juneteenth would be our first annual West Broadway Block Party. So we're very proud to be getting a lot of support from the community with it. In fact, Neon and Warren McLean, they came out as one of our first sponsors, and Aruba with Emotional Health is one of our sponsors. Elle just came in today as as a media sponsor. So one of our media sponsors. So in fact, Tim Baylor, the Jack Group, they've come in as a sponsor. U.S. Bank has come in as a sponsor. So we're getting a lot of support from the community and really trying to have a nice event, bring Juneteenth back into the streets, right in the heart of our economic development, which would be on West Broadway now. And so, we feel it's going to help revitalize things, to have a lot of Black-owned businesses there, as well as we're going to have a lot of community partners and stuff like Hennepin County and Metro Transit and some of these partners with the Blue Light Rail and so on that will be a part of the event as well. And so we're still looking for more vendors and more sponsors. We'll take you in. We're getting, we're at print now with a lot of our flyers and distribution. We have a lot of speakers, and plus business gets political. So we have Don Samuels is one of the sponsors that would be there. We invited, we've got Bobby Joe Champion that's going to be there. Hopefully Jeremiah. We got Representative John Thompson and Jarrell Perry ran for mayor. These are all kind of people that we worked with in the past. We also do another event, I don't know if you guys know, which is the MLK Now event, which we did our first one in January. And I think, Charles, you was a part of that. Charles Caldwell. In fact, we are looking to expand our visual arts with the Juneteenth. So I'm going to give my number and the website we built for it. I don't know if I can share it, but I know I don't have a lot of time, so I won't share it.
We're out of time now. Just give the number and say the website, and we'll help promote you going forward, okay?
Okay. The website is juneteenthminnesota.com, and we'll put anybody else's Juneteenth event on this website. If you just send the flyer, you can send the flyer to events@bobrewards.club, COUB. And my telephone number directly is 612-400-9500. Again, juneteenthminnesota.com, all spelled out. And then you'll see our information down below and all the other websites and stuff that we have. So, yep.
Michelle, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. I'm going to pivot back to my co-host, Brother Charles Caldwell. And Charles, I want to have the rest of the program be a conversation between you and my friend Roy Lewis and my friend Haywood as artists. And I think all that this conversation is doing and has done leads to the visionary role that you all play as documenters and as artists in our community. But Charles, what's on your mind right now? And talk about what you've got coming up in terms of shows.
Well, I'm just taking it all in. It's just a lot of growth and development taking place in North Minneapolis. A lot of Black-owned business. I know when we had the destruction that took place, or the level of excitement and response that took place during the George Floyd murder. There was a lot of things, a lot of buildings burnt, a lot of destruction took place on Broadway and in North Minneapolis. And it's just nice to, and what my thought was that, okay, if this thing is going to turn around and if there's going to be a difference made, because people kept saying, why are we burning down things in our own community? And a lot of those buildings and a lot of those things, we didn't necessarily own them. They were in our community and we didn't own them. So it's just nice to see the Black businesses that are being constructed from the ground up or from the inside out in North Minneapolis, and they're Black owned. There's a lot of nice projects going on. The development that Mr. Baylor has going on there. Kenya McKnight's ownership of the building, the 1200 building on Broadway. Tri Constructions got a big project going on. Several other projects and development that's going on in North Minneapolis. The development taking place over at North Point. A lot of building going on in North Minneapolis, and I think we need to not overlook the excitement of that and just start to be excited about that. And there is opportunities for adding on or being a part or participating, as Mr. Baylor just extended invitation for ideals and possibilities and opportunities. It'd be great to have an art gallery on Broadway with artists such as myself and other artists that have been pillared in the community and true to the creative process in many, many years. Juxtapositions, big project that they got going on. So there's a lot of money that's been spent in North Minneapolis and a lot of ownership being provided. And we have Black businesses that are really doing some great things. We got Anissa that has a place up on 44th in Lindale. So there's a lot of things happening and a lot of great things going on in the community. And we certainly need to support those things, not just in the fact that we're talking about them, but be excited about it. What's inside? I got a couple mural projects that I'm going to be working on here as the weather is developing into that workspace. On the 4th Street Saloon, I'm going to be doing a couple of add-on murals on that building. Got a mural project that I'm really excited about that's developing well in South Minneapolis called A Bouquet of Humanity, A Vision of Healing. And that mural project is going to take place on the Rayito Emerging Spanish building, which is a great canvas wall that faces South Minneapolis off of the freeway of 94, where the bridge crosses Nicollet over off of 94 there. So there's some great things happening creatively. I think us as artists, art is the thing that you can put something in front of a person and have them see it. It's books, authoring, and all that is awesome. But they say that the best way to keep something from us is to put it in a book and hide it on a shelf. And so we're pulling them books off the shelves. A lot of us do that. But as an artist, as a creative person, it's just entrusted experience and opportunity to create something visual that viewers can look at and feel good about. So I'm feeling good about adding to all the great development and the great things that's taking place in the Black community towards ownership, family, foundational wealth, building wealth, and all of that thing. We got a lot of good things going on right now. And so I want to be excited about those things and excited with the people that are excited about it. A lot of these projects has taken, these things just don't happen overnight. And a lot of these projects was well in the forward motion of getting okayed, getting approved, and getting going way before we had all the disruption that's going on in the community and those things. But it's a lot of good things happening. I just want to say that, Brother Lewis, Brother Galbreath, pleasure meeting you guys. Waiting to hear from you.
Oh, Roy, told your book up, Roy. I mean, you mentioned book. That's a great segue. Roy's got a book that I have a copy of, and it's about the Wall of Respect in Chicago. It includes his photography and that of 3 other stellar photographers. Roy, talk about that book, first of all, and good afternoon, and thank you for being here, my brother.
Yeah, man, I've been sitting here listening at this conversation, and it reminded me of some of the conversations around the Wall of Respect in terms of what we were trying to do for that community, you know, for our community, because we weren't being represented. This is the original wall of respect. This is the $1 million picture right here.
Hmm.
This is what the wall of respect building looked like
In Chicago.
before we 43rd and Langley, 1967. Summer of 67 is what this looked like. And we transformed it to the cover of this book, which is Wall of Respect. Wall of Respect, Public Art and Public Liberation in the 1960s in Chicago. You can get it on Amazon, I'm sure. Put out by Northwestern Press. But listening to you all talk about this development in Minneapolis, and one word, I wrote down 2 words, art and transformation. And that's what we were about in that 43rd Street area, art and transformation, transform the community. And the elements that you all have been talking about, the housing, the economic development, Juneteenth, all of that is about transforming your community into a more productive space to live for human beings. And art is the doorway. It is the entrance way. The young people, all the things that young man was talking about, Mr. Flower, those young people are asking for. When you ask the young people what they want, they'll tell you. And I'm hoping that the community will respond and create what they tell. That was the spectacular. I'd like to see that kind of community center in all of our communities, where it's setting up people to be leaders, setting up people to be media, setting up technicians, setting up a place for artists to work, setting up galleries. And so it's right there in the script. If you play this program back, listen to what that young man said about what those young people want. Talk to the young people. And this label that they're now putting everything on young people. Yes, they're shooting. But where are the guns coming from? Young people are not making the guns. They're not making the guns. They don't have the plants to make the guns. Where are they coming from? And how all of a sudden they're in our community at the level that they are. And so art can transform a community. And that's what we did with the Wall of Respect. That Wall of Respect has moved all over the world. It's one of the most popular bureaus in the world. It is now institutionalizes public art. Most cities have public art agencies that give muralist work all over the world, all over the community. And they really do a lot for a community.
Brother Haywood, you know, when I think of LA, I think of Rodney King still. And I don't know if you were around on the street, on the scene when that developed, but tell us about your work as a photographer on the West Coast.
Well, my work as a photographer on the West Coast, it has been to help young Black photojournalists get opportunities. That has been the main goal of my life. You know, a quick story for me, and I think I told it to you, Al, was as a young boy at 10 years old on my grandmama's farm, taking care of my grandfather who had a massive stroke. This is one of my little cute stories about. You always hear down in the country having to work to save the family farm. My grandfather had a massive stroke, and my grandmother had to work 2 and 3 jobs to save the family farm. So I wasn't old enough to go to work, so I took care of him. And I remember one evening she was on her second job of the day, and I was sitting there watching the news program, and I saw a segment where they talked about Black men not being with their family. And when it went off, I just kind of stared at the television set and said, oh boy, that's a lie. I didn't say a lie. I just said, that's not true. And I'll go to my grave saying, I heard the voice of the Great Spirit say, you see what you just saw? As years go by, this is the medium that will be used for people to determine what they think about people. And right then and there, I decided to become a photojournalist, even though I didn't know that's what it was at the time, to tell my people's story and tell it truthfully, and tell the other people's story and tell it truthfully, because they don't tell their story truthfully. They make themselves look like the good guys, And we know difference. We know there are good guys and bad guys. And one of the things I always say to my people, we're not the bad guys. And images, oh man, images are so powerful.
Oh yeah.
They have the ability to take a negative and turn it into a positive. They have the ability to get justice where injustice has been done to individuals. And that's why they want to control the medium so much, because they know the power of images. But out here, and it was very difficult to come from Mayfield, Grays County, Kentucky to Los Angeles, Hollywood, California. But as I tell people, that was a destiny for me. And one of the things I remember about getting into the business, I got into the business in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Florida. And I went to a meeting about journalism and what they were doing in the Black community in regards to how they covered the Black community. And they had some white editors there from major newspapers and stuff. And so I spoke up and talked about how the negativity of the images that I had saw about Black people. So we went to a break, and I never will forget this. And it became part of a silent fire in me in my career. The editor of the Fort Lauderdale News Sun Sentinel, which was a Caucasian man, he walked up to me and he said, "Haywood, you know, you are correct about what you're saying. We do bend over backwards to show Black people in a negative light, but it's what he said next that changed that put the fire in me. He said, but you can't expect us to bend over backwards to show them in a positive light."
Well, there it is. Whoops.
There it is. Yeah.
And that became a silent fire within me. Oh no, you know, I've got to do something about that. But so I spent 9 years in Fort Lauderdale, Miami. I came to LA. I went to work for the Los Angeles Sentinel newspaper, largest Black newspaper west of the Mississippi. When I first got there working for it, they didn't get to cover major events on a regular basis. I'm like, why? You supposed to be. They said, well, they don't let us in. So I started my advocacy for the Black press to get in to cover events, most especially events that involve Black Americans.
Right.
I got Congresswoman Waters, a couple other congresswomen, Congress people. I got the mayor of Los Angeles. I got Johnny Cochran, all on board to fight the fight, because I took on the NFL, the NBA, state, federal people. As a matter of fact, if you look in the congressional record, Roy, in Washington D.C., I sued the photographers gallery at the Capitol.
Right. Yeah, they needed that.
I didn't realize it, but now my name's in the congressional record from filing a lawsuit against them.
And they needed it.
I made a reputation. You can still say my name to people in media, and they will look at you with a hard look, but I don't care. We deserve the right to tell our story just like they tell their story, and they tell our story about us. Because no people can tell a story about another people better than the people that the story is about.
Amen.
That's the bottom line. And in images, oh Lord, I stay on that 24/7. And I don't want to bend y'all's ear too much, but you know, this weekend was the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
I'm sitting up here looking at the first Saturday in May. I'm always in front of the TV looking at the Kentucky Derby. So they're playing commercials. Now, there's not a white horse in the Kentucky Derby. They played a commercial, and it was one of the late night Jimmy Fallon, I think. It was the little puppy race. They had, and the commercial talked about, we took the leading 8 horses to the Kentucky Derby, and they're gonna run this little race, and that's supposedly gonna be who the winner is. They had 8 white puppies. Right. And I'm
White
like,
is right.
8 white puppies, and there's not a white horse in the Kentucky Derby. So I wrote about it on Facebook. You know, I said racism sometimes is very subtle, sometimes it's very overt. That was a show of white supremacy. There was also a show to stack the deck, similarly, that for the white puppy to win the race. Okay, you got to look at that the psychological of it. It was stacked that whoever won, they were going to be white.
Gonna
And
be white
that's
anyway.
in charge.
Amazing. I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. We're coming towards the end of the hour, but this is a great conversation right now. Speaking with Haywood Galbreath, who's a photographer out on the West Coast, and Roy Lewis, a photographer out on the East Coast, and my co-host, Charles Caldwell, an artist, muralist here in Minnesota. Let me ask the three of you, but the two guests from the coast first, about the impact of the image of George Floyd on you, on our people, and on the world. I'm talking about image and the power of image. Haywood first, and then Roy. What was the power, the meaning of that image captured by this young black girl of a man being murdered by our tax dollars?
It told the story and showed America what we have known for hundreds of years about how they feel about us and treat us, and how they play the race card. And in another conversation, if we have it, I'll tell you what the race card actually is, of how they play the race card and say that we don't matter and what we say don't matter. It was very powerful. It, like I said, it showed America what we have said for hundreds of years about how they feel about us. Law enforcement, you know.
Roy, go ahead.
It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to see it. And to see it, that young lady, I'm so glad. At one point, we really need to really honor her in a way that she should be honored, to be able to stand there and hold that camera for 10 minutes and watching electronic, legal, physical, brutal lynching of a black man, watching him die right there in front of her. And it showed the world what kind of, that all these things that we've been saying all these years has not been a part of our imagination. It's been the reality of the fact of how we have been treated since we got off the boat in 16 and whenever. And it continues from, it started in Africa, not just here. It started in Africa. Before we got here, they were treating us that way, putting somebody in the hold of a ship for a couple of months or whatever length of time it took. That's kind of brutal too. That's real brutal. And it's packed into like sardines inside of the hull of a ship. And so those things go together. Those images, you weren't able to see that, but you was able to see for 9 minutes or 10 minutes, this man lose his life because of brutality and because of a way that police, not all police, but this particular police, the way he was the judge, the jury, and the executioner right there in front of you, and that young lady who had that camera steady, got a really steady shot on that. The image is powerful. It's always been powerful. And when you have thought behind it, consciousness behind it, purpose behind it, it's even more powerful.
Charles, we're going to have you wrap it up here. So what about, I love the word that Brother Roy just used, and that was consciousness. And he also said purpose. How do consciousness and purpose fit into your palette as a painter, as an artist, as a creator? And when you think about George Floyd, how does that influence your work or not? Unmute, if you would. Unmute. You're still muted. You're muted.
I said I appreciate the answers that both of you gentlemen just gave, and basically we were thinking all that together on those answers. I just want to add that the fact that there was a moment where we had this pandemic going on, so it had the whole world stand still for a minute and focus on the same thing. And so we all got a chance to focus on that same thing. And so what it did for me was it touched my humanity. because I couldn't accept what was happening. And I knew that that's what was always have been happening, just like you say, all the way back to Africa. So I think it just brought the humanity out in a lot of people that felt touched and needed to respond to that. And I think what we're going to see in the future is that those people that was touched by that from a humanitarian perspective, wrong is wrong. The little girl seen it was wrong. And all the different genders and the different people involved and all the professionals they brought seen that it was wrong. And it was just a moment for me to see that all of the world got to see that what was wrong with what took place there and seeing how proud that man was doing it.
Brothers, thank you all so very much. We're out of time. It's 2:00, and I just pulled Lady J into the program. She's going to follow me here. Lady J, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, Al McFarlane. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking, and thank you for what you do for the community.
And we'll see you all next week. Brothers, thank you. I'm Al McFarlane. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Straight at 2:00 in the Twin Cities. You are listening to Fresh Air Community Radio. We are
Okay, we're off now. It was good.